The morning sun crept through the windows of Baker's home cooking, casting long shadows across the well-worn wooden floors. Tom Baker wiped his hands on his apron and looked around his restaurant, taking in the familiar sights and smells that had been his life for the past 15 years. The small diner in Montana wasn't fancy, but it was real. One of the last places on Earth still serving traditional, home-cooked meals. Most restaurants had switched to the new automated systems or closed down entirely since the aliens made contact 3 years ago. But Tom refused to change. He kept cooking the way his grandmother had taught him, using real ingredients and actual fire. His regulars loved it, even if some people called him old-fashioned. "Order up," Tom called out, sliding a plate of golden brown pancakes across the counter. The smell of maple syrup and butter filled the air, mixing with the aroma of coffee and bacon. His regular customer, Bill, sat at his usual spot, newspaper spread out before him. "You see the news, Tom?" Bill asked, pointing at the headline. "More alien diplomats arriving today. They're saying this is the final evaluation before Earth joins their federation." Tom was about to respond when the bell above the door chimed. He turned, expecting to see Mrs. Anderson for her usual morning coffee. Instead, 3 tall figures ducked through the doorway, their blue-tinted skin shimmering under the diner's lights. The restaurant fell silent. Even Bill stopped mid-bite, his fork hovering in the air. The aliens were wearing what looked like official uniforms, decorated with symbols Tom recognized from news broadcasts about the Federation. One of them stepped forward, their translator device humming to life. "We are the final evaluation committee," it announced in slightly mechanical English. "We have heard reports of this establishment maintaining primitive food preparation methods." Tom straightened his back, trying to hide his nervousness. "Welcome to Baker's Home Cooking. Would you like to try the breakfast special?" The aliens looked at each other, their large eyes blinking in unison. "You mean you actually transform raw materials into sustenance using thermal application, not nutrient-based reconstruction?" "We call it cooking," Tom said with a smile. "And yes, everything here is made the old-fashioned way. Real ingredients, real heat, real flavor." The aliens took seats at the counter, their long fingers examining the laminated menus with curiosity. Tom could hear their translators working overtime as they discussed terms like scrambled, toast, and hash browns. "We will sample your thermal-modified sustenance," the lead alien declared. Tom got to work, his hands moving with practiced efficiency. He cracked eggs, their shells making a satisfying crack against the griddle. The bacon sizzled, filling the air with its irresistible aroma. He added his special blend of spices to the hash browns, letting them crisp to a perfect golden brown. When he served the plates, the aliens stared at the food with a mixture of confusion and fascination. They had never seen anything like it. Using special instruments, they carefully tested each item before taking their first bites. The reaction was immediate. Their eyes widened, and their skin changed color, shifting to a deeper blue. They began eating with increasing enthusiasm, making sounds that their translators couldn't quite process. "This is extraordinary," the lead alien finally managed to say. "The complexity of flavors, the varying textures, the way each element complements the others. This is not just sustenance. This is art." Tom watched as they finished every last bite, even using their bread to wipe the plates clean. The lead alien turned to its companions, and they engaged in rapid conversation in their native language. Finally, they turned back to Tom. "Mr. Baker, we have visited thousands of establishments on Earth during our evaluation. We have seen your advanced technologies, your sciences, your achievements. But this," the alien gestured at the empty plates, "this is something unique, something special." As they left, Tom noticed them taking pictures of his small diner. A week later, he learned that Earth had been accepted into the Galactic Federation. The official reason cited was unique cultural contributions, specifically mentioning Earth's culinary arts as an unprecedented achievement in galactic history. Tom just smiled and kept cooking, not knowing that his simple diner had just changed humanity's place in the universe forever. Tom Baker stared out the window of the space shuttle as Earth grew smaller behind him. His old apron was carefully folded in his bag, a piece of home he couldn't leave behind. The Federation had chosen him as Earth's first culinary ambassador, and now he was heading to their massive space station, known simply as Central Hub. "Never thought cooking breakfast would lead to this," he muttered, watching the stars streak past. The ship docked at Central Hub 2 days later. Tom's first view of the station took his breath away. It was like a giant silver wheel spinning in space, with thousands of lights twinkling along its rim. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it like bees around a flower. His new restaurant space was on level 5, in what the aliens called the Cultural Exchange District. It wasn't much bigger than his diner back home, but the kitchen equipment was completely foreign to him. Sleek machines lined the walls, designed for making the nutrient pastes that most alien species lived on. "This won't do at all," Tom said, scratching his head. He spent the next week having most of the machines removed, replacing them with familiar equipment from Earth, a proper stove, an oven, and real refrigerators. The aliens watched in confusion as he installed ventilation systems to handle actual cooking smoke. On opening day, Tom stood in his new kitchen, surrounded by ingredients he'd insisted on bringing from Earth. The Federation had been puzzled by his demands for raw materials, but they'd agreed to regular shipments of fresh food from Earth. His first customer was a tall, green-skinned alien with 4 arms. The alien's translator buzzed as it read the menu. "What is this soup?" it asked. "How about I make you a bowl of chicken noodle soup?" Tom offered. "It's good for whatever ails you, as we say on Earth." The alien watched in fascination as Tom chopped vegetables, boiled chicken, and added his special blend of herbs and spices. When the soup was ready, Tom had to show the alien how to use a spoon. The first sip caused all 4 of the alien's arms to freeze in midair. Its large eyes blinked rapidly, and its translator made a series of excited chirps. "This creates sensations I did not know were possible," the alien said. "The liquid is both smooth and textured. The flavors, they change and combine. How is this achieved without molecular reconstruction?" Word spread quickly through the station. Soon, Tom's little restaurant had a line stretching down the corridor. He had to learn to modify his recipes for different alien biologies. Less salt for the crystalline beings from Rigel, more spice for the methane brothers from the gas giants, and completely new cooking techniques for species that couldn't eat solid food. But the biggest surprise came when he served a simple grilled cheese sandwich to a group of Federation scientists. They not only loved the taste but discovered something unexpected. Many alien species had taste buds or similar organs that had been dormant for millions of years. Human food was waking them up. "Your cooking is activating pleasure centers in alien brains that we didn't even know existed," explained Dr. Green, a human scientist who'd been studying the phenomenon. "You're literally teaching other species how to taste again." Tom's restaurant became more than just a place to eat. It turned into a hub for diplomatic meetings, with alien representatives requesting Earth food during their negotiations. Tom learned that a good meal could solve problems that hours of talks couldn't fix. One evening, as he watched a group of different alien species sharing a pot of his beef stew, Tom realized something important. Back home, he'd just been a cook in a small-town diner. Here, among the stars, he was helping to bridge gaps between civilizations that had been separate for millions of years. And he was doing it all with nothing more than a kitchen full of Earth ingredients and the recipes his grandmother had taught him. 3 months after Tom Baker opened his restaurant on Central Hub, Earth spices became the most valuable items in the galaxy. It started with a simple black peppercorn. An alien trade minister had sneezed after smelling fresh ground pepper in Tom's kitchen. Instead of being upset, the minister was delighted. His species hadn't experienced such a strong physical reaction to food in their entire recorded history. He immediately ordered 1,000 kilos of peppercorns. "I don't understand," Tom said one morning. watching ships unload crates of Earth spices at the station's dock. It's just regular pepper and cinnamon. He was training a group of human chefs who had recently arrived at the station to help meet the growing demand for Earth cuisine. "Not to them," said Jack, one of the new chefs. "Did you hear? Someone paid 1,000 credits for a single vanilla bean yesterday." The spice trade was making Earth rich, but it also brought problems. Tom discovered this when a purple-skinned alien stumbled into his restaurant, clearly sick. The alien's translator was barely working as it spoke. "Please, help. Bought Earth spices in lower market." Tom recognized the symptoms immediately. The alien had eaten raw nutmeg, far too much of it. A black market for Earth spices had emerged in the station's lower levels, and not everyone knew how to use them safely. "We need to do something about this," Tom told the Federation Council at an emergency meeting. He stood at the podium, still wearing his kitchen apron. Earth spices are meant to be used carefully, in the right amounts, and prepared properly. "We need regulations." The council agreed. They made Tom the head of a new department, the Galactic Culinary Safety Board. His first job was to train food safety inspectors from different species. He also started teaching proper spice handling in his growing cooking classes. But the demand kept rising. Some alien species began trying to grow Earth plants in their own worlds. Most attempts failed. It turned out Earth plants were surprisingly picky about their growing conditions. This only made real Earth spices more valuable. One quiet evening in his restaurant, Tom was experimenting with a new recipe when he heard urgent knocking. He opened the door to find Dr. Green, the human scientist who had been studying alien reactions to Earth food. "Tom, you need to see this," she said, laying out several charts on a clean table. "We've been monitoring alien species who regularly eat Earth-spiced food. Their sensory organs are evolving. They're developing new taste buds, new ways to process flavors." Tom wiped his hands on his apron, staring at the data. "Is that dangerous?" "Just the opposite," Dr. Green said excitedly. "It's like their bodies are remembering something they lost long ago. Many species used to have complex taste systems, but lost them when they switched to artificial nutrients. Earth food is waking up their natural abilities." The news spread quickly through the station. Now aliens weren't just coming for the taste. They were coming to wake up their senses. Tom's cooking classes became full of alien students eager to learn the basics of Earth cuisine. One day, while teaching a group of aliens how to make simple tomato soup, Tom noticed something remarkable. Each student added slightly different spices, adjusting the recipe to their own tastes. They were starting to experiment, to create their own variations. "This is how it begins," he told his human staff that evening. "First they learn our recipes, then they start making their own, just like humans have done for thousands of years." Looking around his kitchen, Tom saw spice racks filled with carefully labeled jars, each containing treasures more valuable than gold to much of the galaxy. But more valuable than the spices themselves was the knowledge of how to use them. Knowledge that humans had developed over countless generations of cooking. As he prepared for the next day's lessons, Tom smiled, knowing that Earth's greatest contribution to the galaxy had turned out to be not its technology or its sciences, but its cinnamon rolls and curry powder. 6 months after Earth spices hit the galactic market, something unexpected started happening. Alien species began developing their own unique cooking styles. Tom Baker witnessed this firsthand one morning in his cooking class on Central Hub. A tall, blue-skinned student raised all 4 hands in excitement. "Chef Baker, I've modified your pasta recipe." The alien carefully placed a steaming dish on Tom's desk. "I used Earth wheat pasta but added spices from my homeworld that we used to use thousands of years ago. My people had forgotten about them until we started cooking Earth food." Tom took a careful bite. The flavors were unlike anything he'd ever tasted, familiar yet completely new. "This is amazing," he said, and meant it. "What do you call this dish?" "Earth-style Crystal Mountain pasta," the alien said proudly. "It's becoming very popular back home." Similar things were happening all across the galaxy. Species that had lived on nutrient paste for generations were rediscovering their ancient food traditions and mixing them with Earth cooking techniques. New restaurants were opening everywhere, serving what they called fusion galactic cuisine. Tom's restaurant on Central Hub became more than just a place to eat. Important diplomatic meetings now happened regularly in his private dining room. He noticed that even the angriest arguments seemed to calm down over a good meal. One day, two species that had been fighting over mining rights for 50 years sat down at Tom's best table. He served them his famous apple pie with ice cream. By the time they finished dessert, they had worked out a peaceful agreement. Food brings people together, Tom explained to his staff. Doesn't matter if those people have 2 legs or 6, or if they breathe oxygen or methane. Breaking bread together makes everyone a little more understanding. The Federation took notice. They started calling it gastro-diplomacy and made shared meals a regular part of all important meetings. Tom found himself cooking for some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. But the biggest change came from the aliens themselves. Many species began genetic research to enhance their ability to taste and enjoy food. They wanted to experience flavors the way humans could. Dr. Green visited Tom's kitchen one evening with exciting news. "The genetic modifications are working better than we expected," she said, showing him data on her tablet. "Some species are developing entirely new taste buds. They're not exactly like human ones. They're unique to each species." Tom watched as more and more alien chefs opened their own restaurants on Central Hub. Each brought their own traditions and techniques, creating new dishes that had never existed before. Human spices were still popular, but now they were just part of a growing galactic cuisine. His favorite moments were when his alien students made breakthroughs, like when a rock-based life form figured out how to make crystals that tasted like fruit, or when a gas-breathing species invented a way to cook with plasma energy. One quiet evening, Tom sat in his restaurant after closing time, looking through photos from his old diner back on Earth. A small group of his alien students were cleaning up the kitchen, chatting happily in various languages while their translators tried to keep up. "Chef Baker," one of them called out, "come taste this. We combined your beef stew recipe with traditional energy crystals from my homeworld." Tom smiled and stood up. His simple diner in Montana felt like a lifetime ago. Now he was helping to create something entirely new, a galaxy where food wasn't just fuel, but a way to bring different species together. As he walked back into his kitchen, he heard his students discussing plans to open their own restaurants. They were talking about mixing Earth techniques with their own traditional foods, creating new flavors that had never existed before. "This," Tom thought as he tasted the crystal-infused stew, "is how cultures grow, one meal at a time." Tom Baker knew something was wrong the moment he walked into his restaurant on Central Hub. 3 of his alien students were crowded around a table, looking sick. Their skin colors had changed to unusual shades, and their translators were making strange buzzing sounds. "What happened?" Tom asked, rushing over to them. One of the aliens weakly held up a package, new Earth-style food, from the Green Star Company. They said, "It was just like your cooking." Tom examined the package. It contained what looked like regular Earth food, but something wasn't right. The smell was too perfect, too strong. He had heard about the Green Star Company, a large alien corporation that had been trying to copy Earth cuisine using artificial methods. "Get these students to the medical bay," Tom ordered his staff. Then he made an urgent call to Dr. Green. The scientist arrived quickly, bringing her testing equipment. "Just as I feared," she said after examining the food. "They've created artificial flavor molecules that are too strong. They're overwhelming alien taste buds and causing reactions." Reports started coming in from across the galaxy. The Green Star Company had released their Perfect Earth flavor products everywhere. They claimed their artificial flavors were better and safer than real Earth food. But aliens were getting sick, and some were becoming afraid of all Earth-style cuisine. Tom's restaurant started losing customers. Even his regular aliens began to worry. "How do we know your food is safe?" they asked. "We have to stop this," Tom said during an emergency meeting with Federation officials. "Real cooking isn't about perfect flavors. It's about care, skill, and understanding different tastes. You can't copy that in a laboratory." But the Green Star Company had powerful friends. They claimed their methods were more modern and efficient than traditional cooking. Why spend time preparing real food when you could get the same flavors instantly? Tom decided to fight back the only way he knew how, through cooking. He invited Federation officials and news reporters to his restaurant for a special demonstration. "Today," he announced, "I'm going to show you the difference between real cooking and artificial flavors." He prepared 2 versions of his famous beef stew. One used the Green Star Company's artificial flavors. The other was made the traditional way, with real ingredients and careful cooking. The difference was clear to everyone. The artificial stew had strong, obvious flavors that hit all at once. But Tom's real stew was complex, with flavors that developed slowly and worked together naturally. "Real cooking is an art," Tom explained as his guests enjoyed the food. "Each ingredient has its own character. Each species tastes things differently. You can't copy that with chemicals." Dr. Green backed him up with scientific evidence. "Artificial flavors are causing problem because they're too simplified," she explained. "Real food has thousands of subtle compounds that work together. That's why different species can enjoy it safely." The Federation launched an investigation into the Green Star Company. They discovered that the company had rushed their products to market without proper testing. Many of their artificial flavors were dangerous for alien biology. But the biggest surprise came when investigators found secret messages between the company and a group that opposed Earth joining the Federation. They had been trying to discredit Earth cuisine on purpose. Tom's evidence helped shut down the Green Star Company's artificial flavor operations, but he knew the fight wasn't over. There would always be people trying to take shortcuts, trying to copy real cooking with artificial methods. "That's why we need to keep teaching," he told his students as they prepared for the evening dinner service. "Real cooking takes time and care. It's not just about the taste. It's about bringing people together, about understanding different species and their needs." As he worked in his kitchen that evening, Tom smiled. The Green Star Company had tried to copy Earth cuisine, but they had missed the most important ingredient, the human touch that made each meal special. The announcement flashed across every screen on Central Hub. "First Galactic Cooking Competition. All species welcome." Tom Baker read the message twice, not quite believing it. After the Green Star Company scandal, the Federation had decided to celebrate real cooking with a grand competition. "You have to enter, Chef Baker," his students insisted. "You're the one who showed the galaxy how to cook." Tom wasn't so sure. The competition would feature the best chefs from thousands of worlds. Some were traditional nutrient crafters with centuries of experience. Others were new chefs who had learned from Earth cuisine and developed their own amazing styles. But when he learned that the winner would help write the Federation's new food safety laws, he knew he had to participate. He couldn't let artificial flavors threaten real cooking again. The competition arena was enormous, with cooking stations for 100 chefs. Each station could adjust its environment to match any planet's conditions. Some areas were filled with methane for gas-breathing chefs. Others were superheated for species that cooked with plasma. Tom set up his simple Earth kitchen equipment, feeling a bit old-fashioned among all the high-tech gear. Nearby, a crystalline being was growing food in geometric patterns. On his other side, a floating cloud of gas was weaving energy strands into something that smelled amazing. The first challenge was to create a dish that any species could eat safely. Tom decided to make his grandmother's chicken soup, but with a twist. He used special Federation technology to make it safe for different biologies while keeping the real cooking methods. As he worked, he noticed strange things happening. His heat settings kept changing. Ingredients he had prepared went missing. Someone had tampered with his equipment. Having trouble, Earth Chef asked a tall, silver-skinned alien from the Green Star Company's former leadership. They were now running a new company, still pushing artificial cooking methods. Tom stayed calm and kept cooking. He remembered what he always told his students. Real cooking is about solving problems and adapting. He fixed his equipment and started over, working faster to make up for lost time. The judges came from different species. Some floated, some rolled, some walked on many legs. Each had to taste every dish that their biology allowed. Tom watched nervously as they tried his soup. "This is real," said one judge, their translator buzzing with emotion. "Not perfect, not artificial, but real. You can taste the care in it." Tom made it to the final round, facing off against the silver-skinned alien. The challenge was to create a completely new dish that honored both Earth cuisine and galactic traditions. As they cooked, Tom noticed his opponent using hidden artificial flavor dispensers, cheating. But before he could say anything, something unexpected happened. The artificial flavors reacted badly with the real ingredients, causing the alien's dish to bubble and smoke. "Stop!" Tom shouted, pushing his opponent away from the dangerous reaction. He helped contain the mess, preventing what could have been a dangerous accident. The judges saw everything. The silver-skinned alien was disqualified, and their continued attempts to use artificial flavors were exposed to the entire galaxy. Tom completed his dish, a fusion of Earth-style roasted vegetables with energy crystals from 3 different worlds, served in a sauce that combined Earth spices with traditional alien flavor essences. He called it Galaxy Stew. "This dish represents everything we've learned," Tom explained to the judges. Earth cooking techniques combined with galactic ingredients, real flavors working together naturally. Food that brings different species together. The judges' decision was unanimous. Tom's honest cooking and willingness to protect even his opponent from danger showed what real Earth cuisine was about, not just taste, but caring about those you cook for. As he accepted the winner's crystal trophy, Tom thought about his old diner back on Earth. He never imagined that cooking breakfast in Montana would lead to this moment, representing humanity's culinary traditions before the entire galaxy. 1 year after winning the Galactic cooking competition, Tom Baker stood in front of his newest creation, the Galactic Culinary Academy. The building shone like a silver fountain in the heart of Central Hub, its windows looking out into the star-filled space beyond. "Never thought I'd see anything fancier than my old diner," he said to Dr. Green, who stood beside him. The academy had classroom kitchens designed for every known species in the Federation. Some rooms were filled with methane gas, others with liquid nitrogen, and some even had artificial gravity for species that cooked in Zerog. "Your diner started all this," Dr. Green reminded him. "Earth got its seat in the Federation because you showed them something they'd forgotten: the joy of real food." Tom walked through the academy's main kitchen, where his first class would start in an hour. Students from 50 different worlds had signed up to learn Earth cooking techniques. Each would then mix these skills with their own world's traditions to create something new. His old apron from Montana hung in a frame on the wall, next to his competition trophy. The Federation had officially named Earth the Kitchen of the Galaxy, and human cooking techniques were now part of basic diplomatic training. The first students began arriving. Some floated, some crawled, some walked on 2 legs or 20. Each wore a specially designed cooking uniform that Tom had helped create for their species. "Welcome to your first day at the academy," Tom began. "Today, we're going to start with something simple but important: bread. A floating gas being raised its energy tendril. But Chef Baker, my species can't eat solid food." Tom smiled. "That's why we're going to make 50 different kinds of bread today, one for each species here, because the most important thing about cooking isn't just following a recipe, it's understanding who you're cooking for." As the class progressed, amazing things happened. The gas being learned to create energy clouds that tasted like warm bread to its species. A crystalline student grew crystal structures that captured the essence of toast. A water-breathing alien made underwater bread that dissolved with exactly the same taste as Earth bread. During lunch break, Tom received an urgent message from the Federation Council. The message made him smile. They had just passed the Baker Law, requiring all artificial food products to be clearly labeled and tested for safety across all species. Real cooking was now protected throughout the galaxy. That evening, as his students cleaned their cooking stations, Tom walked to the Academy's observation deck. Earth was visible as a small blue dot in the distance. He thought about how far things had come from his small diner in Montana. The next morning, Tom arrived early to find his students already in the kitchen. They were teaching each other their own world's cooking techniques. A plasma-based being was showing a silicon life form how to properly energize crystals for taste. A methane breather was learning about underwater seasonings from an ocean world student. "This is what it's all about," Tom told them, beaming with pride. "Sharing what we know, learning from each other, making the galaxy a little smaller one meal at a time." As he helped a young gas being perfect its energy bread technique, Tom received another surprise. The Federation had just announced that cooking diplomacy had helped resolve more conflicts in the past year than any other method. Looking around his classroom kitchen, Tom saw the future of galactic cuisine taking shape. Earth wasn't just teaching anymore, it was learning too. Every species brought its own traditions, its own techniques, its own way of understanding food. "Remember," he told his students as they finished their day, "cooking isn't just about feeding people. It's about bringing them together. Whether you're making earth bread or energy clouds or crystal nutrients, what matters is the care you put into it." And somewhere in Montana, Tom's old diner still stood, now a historic landmark, the place where Earth's culinary conquest of the stars began. Not with weapons or technology, but with a simple breakfast and a love for real cooking.